when iconic narcocorrido artist Chalino Sanchez was kidnapped and assassinated on May 16, 1992, he not only left behind a genre-defining legacy, but also an 8-year-old son named Adan Sanchez. Adán would incredibly release his very first album just 2 years later at the age of 10, Soy el Hijo de Chalino. Unfortunately, it seemed he was unable to escape a fate as tragic as his father's. Adán was born on April 14, 1984 in Torrance, California, with his parents Chalino Sanchez Felix and Maricela Vallejos deciding to marry shortly before out of wedlock. During the same year, his uncle Armando Sanchez was also murdered in a hotel in Tijuana, beginning the first of many tragic deaths in the Sanchez family. Adán would gain the nickname El Compita, or Little Buddy, growing up, admiring his father's quick-moving lifestyle, with Chalino believed to be doing anything from washing dishes, selling cars, and according to sources close to him, supposedly dealing small quantities of marijuana and cocaine. Chalino also helped his older brother Armando run an immigrant smuggling operation, assisting as a coyote. With Armando's passing, Chalino found himself arrested and in jail, and missing several early parts of Adán's childhood. He would get out of jail with a seemingly newfound appreciation for the family he left behind, and a new career more lucrative than they could ever imagine: music and the world of narcocorridos. Chalino's fame would ultimately lead to his tragic demise on May 16, 1992, just over a month after the 8th birthday of Adan Sanchez, in the Sinaloan city of Culiacan. As the world wept and mourned Chalino's legacy, his bravado would inspire a new generation of artists following in his footsteps, many of which this channel has covered previously. This happened to include his very own son, Adán, who embraced the music around him growing up and decided to pursue it the moment his father passed. It was reported that seeing his mother struggle with the passing of his father and what the family would do for money inspired him to take up music full-time. Maricela would take a 9-year-old Adán to numerous radio stations in the Los Angeles area in the hopes of getting his songs on the radio. Despite many rejections, they finally saw luck at Long Beach's La Que Buena, the same station that gave rise to artists like Lupillo Rivera, El Narquilo, and Valentin Elizalde. The Sanchez family had relocated to Paramount, California by this time, a city in the greater Los Angeles area, bordering Compton and Long Beach, with a large community of Mexicans from Sinaloa, often being described as a second Sinaloa. Like his father, he would sometimes sing off key in the iconic Chalino style, deciding to also seek out the same banda and Pacific norteño accompaniments to his compositions. His early album titles focused around the loss of his father and homages to his work, in addition to the celebration of singers from Mexico's golden age and the Sinaloan spirit. The Sanchez family lived in the original home that Chalino had bought them, and they would remain there throughout Adán's career as well. They even decided to integrate it into the album art for Adán's 1995 release. By the time of this album, he'd already been picked up by Sony Discos Inc., the Mexican division of Sony Music Distribution. Even more notably, One of the producers on the album was regional Mexican great Pedro Rivera, the man who sparked the careers of countless Chalaninos. Adán enrolled at Paramount High School in 1998, at which point he had already released 5 albums. Pretty atypical for a freshman high school student, but by all accounts, he remained humble and personable. He was said to have always had time to kiss, hug, and talk to his fans, with Compton High School sophomore Lizeth Hernandez saying he wasn't conceited at all. It's maybe this dynamic that sparked a change in Adán's career direction. Departing from the tales of smugglers, drug runners, and cartel dealings of his father, Adán decided to focus his songs on the themes of love and heartbreak. Paramount High wasn't the safest of schools in an area of LA that was often marred by violence and crime, including a serial abductor that was active during Adán's time in school. Paramount High School was also covered in my video on Saul Vieira, which you can check out if you'd like some more background on a few more stories surrounding the school. Veteran producer and label executive Abel De Luna said he first met Adán when he was a high schooler, just 15 at the time, visiting his LA recording studio during a session for another band. One night, he was doing homework, another, he was writing a song. He would release another 3 albums during his high school years, now deciding to adopt his late father's name as a middle name. This era also saw the first release of his on a major Latin record label, Univision Records. By the time he had graduated in 2002, he'd released 8 full-length releases, and earned a small groundswell of attention from fans on both sides of the border. According to the LA Times, fans knew everything about Adán. They knew he had become the man of the house after his father's death. They knew he was not a great student. They knew he still lived in the same house his father bought, and the Jaguar, Lincoln, and Corvette parked on the driveway wouldn't change the fact of where he was brought up. It was possibly these reasons and his personableness why his star would grow even brighter, and after 12 total releases, on March 20th, 2004, his fame had finally earned him a spot at the prestigious Kodak Theater on Hollywood Boulevard, now in modern day, the Dolby Theater. The hype behind Adan Chalino Sanchez had reached unimaginable levels, and he had managed to pull off the incredible feat of selling out the 3,400 capacity Kodak Theater, being the first regional Mexican artist to do so, and the youngest artist of any genre. Quite a leap from the Paramount swap meet in the days of trading bootleg Chalino tapes. 1 week after Adán's incredible show at the Kodak, he traveled south to Mexico to tour through Sonora, Sinaloa, and Nayarit. On March 27, 2004, he set off in the evening to journey from El Rosario, Sinaloa to Tuxpan, Nayarit, about a 2-hour ride. As the son of the godfather of Narcocorridos, it felt like there was an ominous dark cloud hanging over the Sanchez family. As Adán traveled through the Sinaloan state at this point in his career, it would be impossible not to think of his deceased father, who had been found only 3 hours away in Los Laureles, Sinaloa. Somewhere between El Rosario and Escuinapa, Sinaloa, Adán was riding passenger in his 1990 Lincoln Town Car with 3 other passengers when disaster struck. By all available reports, the driver simply lost control of the car after blowing a tire and was unable to prevent the car from veering off the road and rolling into a ditch. Tragically, Adan Chalino Sanchez was asleep and had neglected to wear a seatbelt, sustaining fatal head injuries in the crash, and was pronounced dead after the arrival of emergency services. He was traveling with his manager, Lorena Rodriguez, a close friend referred to as El Gordo, and a 4th individual, Lorena's brother, who was driving. All 3 other individuals would survive the crash, and would be taken to the nearby hospital for injuries. Unlike his father's circumstances, there's no clear determination of whether any foul play was involved. According to the surviving passengers, there was no other cars in sight. Police were also unable to find any signs the car had been tampered with beforehand. In an interview with the YouTube channel Margarito Music, Lorena commented, "I don't like to remember that. It is a very painful part of my life. What I can tell you, it was an accident. It was nothing planned, a regrettable accident." She also mentioned a camera that was lost in the crash, with rare photos of Adan, and offered a reward for its return. YouTube comment conspiracy theorists didn't seem convinced with her testimony, and noted her nerves and hesitancy to go into specific details, using one of my favorite phrases, "Aquí hay gato encerrado," or "there's a locked cat in there." Is there a chance that his father's old grudges had caught up to Adan, and that the survivors had been silenced under threat? Unlikely, but not impossible. But as we've learned with some of Mexico's most dangerous cartels, the impossible is sometimes within reach. Adan's body would be brought back to LA for a public wake on April 1st, 2004, in Norwalk, California. Adan was relatively unknown among the English-speaking public, so it was assumed that the LAPD severely underestimated the public response and had little police presence on site, dispatching only 200 deputies for the occasion. The event drew national coverage as 15 to 30,000 people packed the streets to mourn the young crooner. The LAPD's inability to manage the crowd resulted in unrest and near chaos as cars and portable toilets were overturned as the crowd tailed the Chevy Suburban hearse, the majority of the mourners carrying white roses with them. The LAPD ultimately deployed the use of riot gear and pellet guns to disperse the crowd. The story of Adan Chalino Sanchez has similar parallels to his father's, but remains unique in its tragedy and timing. His fame was reaching points almost unimaginable to his father's expectations. The popularity of regional Mexican music grew to incredible heights after the passing of Chalino, but his son saw some of those heights before he passed. Pepe Garza, then the program director of La Que Buena, compared the Pandemonium building for Adan before his death to the Beatles and Saturday Night Fever. He said it was the right time for the emergence of another youth idol in Mexican regional music. Many believe that Adan Chalino Sanchez's pedigree and musical range would make him that idol, and for 1 week in history, his trajectory seemed to be heading there. A cruel reminder to never take what could be for granted.